Another common request we get is a lot of factory pads, like this particularly this Browning one here on this medallion stock, are very, very solid pads. Don't give you any forgiveness. And a lot of people, shorter or taller, will ask us to put on pads and add length or take away length to make them fit properly for the individual. This particular pad, the complaint is basically it's just way too hard. So we're going to change this out to a Pacmar Decelerator, which is one of the premium pads. We use a lot of Limb Saver and Pacmar pads. And really, between those two, you pretty much get the best pad you can buy right there. This pad appears to be glued on, but it is not. It's actually got screws in it, and you can see there are small slits in the pad for access to the screws underneath. So add a little lube on there. Factory screws. Okay, and then the original pad comes off. So Decelerator offers all of these pads, and inside the pads, unfortunately, is a metal spacer, and that gives them some structure as you're grinding them so they don't collapse in. And I'm going to use these spacers as templates to ensure that it's not wider than my stock, because if this metal band is deeper than my stock, then when I grind through the rubber edge, it's going to expose this metal spacer inside, and that pad is basically no good. It's going to delaminate off of its hard heel. So I'll look through both. My medium spacer has perfect clearance. That's the pad I'm going to use here. I'll install that on there, and I know that my edges are completely safe and they will not break through. So now I'm just going to punch some access holes through here so I can use typical screws. So just on a block, pop them through. And so now you have two nice clean holes that your screws can easily go through without marring the surface. Again, I'm going to lubricate them so they don't smear when I'm putting my screws through. You want to take good care of the pad, otherwise you get round rings of torn rubber, and it really looks off. So my hole spacing is correct for this medium decelerator pad, so I can basically use the same holes again. You can use the original screws or provided screws with the pad. Just make sure that they are, long enough and tighten up properly. Okay, so now we roughly have our pad on. We know our spacer's clear. Time for the fun stuff. And then for the initial run-up, I run 2 layers of masking tape, which is about 0.8 It's about 4 thou thick tape. So I know when I get down to my tape line, I'm within about 0.8 of the actual stock surface. Gives me a stopping point. All right, for stage 1 of the pad, I use a 2-inch wide belt system. This is a Wilton grinding wheel. This is very aggressive. It's a 36 grit pad grinding wheel basically, and that'll take off the bulk of this extra pad. No sense starting on little stuff. Just get her off quick, and then we'll move to another grinding station for the final fit up. So get ready for some noise and rubber flying. So now we've hogged off basically 80% of what the material we need to remove. I don't like to get too close with this one because it's very aggressive, and I like to finish with nice clean lines. So now we're good. I'm going to switch over to the next system, which is a 3-inch wide Scott Murray wheel, and I'll start with about an 80 grit. Clean your belts off, make sure they're nice and clean. So here we go. I've got now my 80 grit. I'm getting down to my tape line, which is exactly where I want to be. And now I'm going to switch down to a 120 and start cleaning up some of these heavier abrasions in it. And just keep going down. Okay, so now I'm getting down to where I'm burning through pretty much one lick of tape here. So now this is where he gets to be real careful now.
Separates from the men from the boys, right?
Yeah, actually that first one usually does that. That's where all the bad cuts come from. But so now I'm getting down to where I really want to be. Real close to the stock line. I'm within about 8 thousandths. I'm going to pull off a full layer of this tape now. And you can see I'm very close. I've got dark lines here where I'm touching. I've went through and touched through those licks of tape, but I'm off the stock still. And that's all you need. When the wood starts showing up, when you can start seeing the finish underneath, that's close enough. So we'll switch down to the light grit now. And it's a 220 grit, so this will put the fine finish on the edge. I'm gonna run this right down till that tape's just about transparent. You can see in a spot like this, if I was just to rub this hard, that's wood right there. So this is as far as this ever needs to go. This will turn out perfect. So we're going to do another step here. Because this is a mirrored finish, we're going to turn this plate here to a nice shiny gloss finish now. So now on these high gloss stocks, you can polish this spacer, but you got to be careful because if you touch the polisher on the rubber, it'll just peel it up and your nice fancy pad job just went down the gutter. So we'll get this fired up. Little buffing compound, and I'm going to run this. You'll probably see a little bit of finish show through this white tape, but that's okay. All right. So now you can see we've got this nice glossy edge. This is just where the buffing wheel lifts the tape off, the glue, but it's just polishing an already mirrored finish, so this will turn out beautiful. So let's take the tape off and see what we got. Okay, now we'll wipe off all this excess buffing compound off of the stock here. And you can have a look at this thing in close light.
Line one, please. Line one.
Grab a little more paper. So give the things a little wash down. You want to remove your tape residue. It collects dust like crazy. So, all right, and that's the finished product of a perfect pad installation. That's how they should look. You shouldn't have any big holes missing out of your stock when you're done.
Okay.
And
Turn it right over. Yep.
yep, so full rotation, everything's perfect. This is just buffing compound still sitting on the stock.
Beautiful.
An ideal pad job.